Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful morning, afternoon, evening, whichever time you decide to listen in. My name is Unshante, and I'm the project coordinator for the Elijah Network, South Dade One Voice Community Coalition. If this is your first time hearing about us or listening to our podcast, allow me to give you a brief synopsis of who we are. South Dade One Voice Community Coalition, or SDOVCC for short, is a community-based coalition in South Miami-Dade County, Florida, that primarily focus on the prevention of youth substance use. We serve from Kendall to Homestead and the surrounding area, youth ages 14 to 18, which is pretty much the middle to high school age group. Our goal is to prevent youth from using and or abusing substances such as alcohol, marijuana, opioids, and non-opioid medication. Luckily for you, this beautiful voice won't be the only one playing through your speakers or headphones. Today, we are being joined by JP Zabala, who is our new community health worker. How you doing, JP?
Ashante, I'm super excited to start with this amazing podcast and program. As you said, I am the new community health worker, and part of what I do pretty much is bring that awareness of how to have alternatives to versus using drugs, right? And how we could find that in exercises, in the way you eat, in the people you can hang out with, perhaps even some knowledge on mental health, and see if perhaps there's something medical in that area that you can treat to help you not fall into these habits of substance abuse and many things like that. I love doing that with you guys, working together and serving our community, and it's been amazing so far. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you've been doing such a great job.
Thank you.
You ever see down here in our area, we also have some billboards that go up that are all designed by JP.
Hey.
Pretty amazing work
More
that he's doing.
up.
Yes, definitely. And so, as you may have seen in the title, today we will be talking all things Nida's National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week. Nida's Facts Week is held every year in March, and this year it's held from March 21st to the 27th, making today the first day. So, first and foremost, what exactly is Nida's Fact Week?
Well, Nida's Fact Week is all about sharing facts, right? About drugs, alcohol, and addictions that affect each and every community, of course. A little background story. I was born in New Jersey. I lived there until I was 5, so I really didn't experiment any of that life there. When my family is from Ecuador. So when I was 5, we all moved to Ecuador. And I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, and we would have to walk with my family to take the bus and be in the bus stops or whatever. And I would always be afraid whenever I would encounter a drunk person on the street. For some reason, I felt very threatened. And as a little boy, it did mark me. But that being said, of course, the capital of Ecuador is Quito. That's where I was raised after I was born in New Jersey and everything. And even in that context and culture, I would say even more, you see a lot of this behavior. So, that's what NIDA brings together to just create and bring that awareness and share facts and information with us. There are organizations all across the United States use this week to spread information about how substance affects us and what we can do as individuals and as a community to change its impact, right? It started way back actually in 2010. I say that way back because I'm from 91, so I'm way back, 2010. Wait, what year were you born?
98.
98?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to rub off a little of that youngness and youthness. But yeah, so it started back in 2010 by scientists at NIDA, which is the National Institute on Drug Abuse, who were trying to find a way to bring about educational events in communities so teens and other young people can learn more about what science has taught them about drug use and addiction. I think that's the key word, learn.
Yes.
And I think it's key because you either want to or you don't.
Right.
Because there's information all over, right? There's information we can find in NIDA's website or any other websites. But yeah, just I think becoming aware of that, this information can be helpful and it could change many teens' lives.
Yeah.
It's important to be aware of. So
being aware, and also when it comes to learning, is that we always know that things are changing. The components, the construction of drugs are always changing. So just always being open to learn more about how it can affect the difference in changes and how it's affecting, I think is very important because, science doesn't stay the same all the time. The same alcohol we had back then isn't the same we have now.
That's
the
true.
Same opioids and marijuana isn't the same we have now. So just always being open to learn about it, which is why it's an annual thing because
that's good.
Every year something changes.
No, I think you're right there because, back in the day, like even before my day, like even before I was born, I'm sure, let's say, talk about weed and weed was weed. That's it. Maybe there was just that one type of weed,
right?
That you grew it or not or whatever, however people did that, but it was just that type. And now, I mean, I've heard, right, and I've researched that there's so many variations and different types of marijuana, and supposedly different. In each one of those have different side effects, and one makes you sleepier, one makes you more supposedly aware, one hypersensitive. It's just crazy that even in that world, drugs world and alcohol, like there are so many different things that if you really don't even know what you're consuming, if that's what you've been drawn to and the habit you've been around,
right, you
could just end up worse than what you thought you were gonna be.
Right.
So so that's interesting, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting, or a cool thing about it is us being a coalition, education is something that we do year round. So whether it's through our social media, our parent and youth cafes, our health fairs, our workshops, we're all about educating on the history of certain substances. So you brought up marijuana, so everybody's always talking about how it was before, how it is now. Everybody knows about the THC and the CBD, but you also have the hemp. Now you have it in lotions, you have it as waxes, you have
That's
they use in vape pods.
Vape, yeah.
It's always changing, and we know how it affects people in general, but the youth may not know how it affects them different than it does how it does adults, and why it's illegal for them to use. So during Nida's Fact Week, it is important for us to relate the facts or statistics that we give back to our specific community based on the data we get from NUM. So like we do the FISIS, known as the Florida Youth Substance Abuse Survey, or we conduct our own surveys when we go and do these health fairs and when we talk to the students at the school. And so the information we're relaying back is what we're getting from them. It's knowing our own particular community and substances that are, going on. And so I think in that way it makes it more real for our youth because it's like, wow, this hits home because it is coming from us.
That's true. It's going back to the demographics, because even so, like you said, something sparked, like not every youth culture may be taking the same drug, right? And that I think leads us to like the next point of this conversation, that it's important to highlight that not everyone, like I said, not every culture, not every person, not even the majority of our youth are using substances. In fact, like we do associate that with like, oh, they dress this way, they're using substances, or they talk this way, they're using substances. Oh, they rap, right? Oh my goodness, they're in the music industry. Yeah, they do. And there's this like myth, or there's just this misconception that all kids or most of the kids use some sort of substance, and that's not true. Obviously, we do have to be careful because we're not validating, or we're not trying to be easy on the fact that there may be a culture or a population that is, but not everybody is, and I think it should be important to be highlighted. There's this like big word that we've avoided in every conversation, but it's that peer pressure. Yeah. And sadly, I believe that in the young ages, there's some facts I'm going to share later, but 13, 12 years old, as these teenagers start using substances, and it's all because of that peer pressure, right? Their friend is consuming perhaps, and they approach this kid who isn't, and they're like, hey, here, try this, and the kid may say, no, I don't want to. Yeah. And then the question is, oh, why didn't you do it? Everybody is doing it, right? And then it just becomes like that tension in the teenager's brain, as in, do I want to fit in? Yeah. Do I want to be cool? Oh, my mom or dad or my aunt, told me not to, but what do I do? And I think that's something that we as an organization as well try to bring to our community, to our culture. We work in a school setting, and I think that's part of the programs that we do with the parent cafes or different things, the workshops that we are trying to bring that awareness and I guess that validation that it's okay not to. Right. And if you do, that there are always alternatives to find that release in something else. So, that peer pressure is pretty intense.
And it's kind of hard. It's not always easy to immediately get yourself out of. I remember being in high school, I went to a party with my friend, and I drove. And it was one of those things where they say, oh, in order to get in, you got to take a shot.
Oh, man.
And it was like, I don't want to do that for one. Even if I wasn't driving, I don't drink. I don't want to drink. And it was like, yo, I'm driving. I don't want to do it. And they're like, oh, but you can still do it. It's just one. You're going to be here for a while. And it's one of those. I said, no. Like, I don't want to do it.
How old were you, sir?
I was 16.
Oh, wow.
I was 16 years old. So, and yeah, it was just crazy because it's like, if I didn't have that strength in myself, because not everybody has it, or if it was one of those, hey, look, you either take it or you got to go, or even if your friend's like, yo, just take it, it'll be okay. So it's all these different things you have to think about. But just me as myself, it's like, I know if I did this, my dad won't be happy, and just me personally, I'd rather not do it. So that I think that is a big culture.
And that's crazy. Sorry to cut you off, but did you know that 13 is the average age when children first experiment with drugs?
Yeah.
And
middle school,
and a lot of that happens and comes from the influence of parent. Speaking about alcohol specifically, it comes from the influence of a parent who, abuses it as well, and they're bringing that teaching to their household, to their kid, and that's crazy. Alcohol is actually the most commonly abused substance. It's actually the third most common cause of death in the U.S.
Yes,
that's powerful, but not in the most positive way.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, it's like almost every holiday in the U.S., you can think of alcohol. So you think New Year's, everybody's taking champagne. Super Bowl is sponsored by whatever beer company that is. And
that's true.
So so it makes a lot of sense.
Cinco de Mayo,
yes.
Tequila and beer, right?
Right.
It's just a lot of that, and it's crazy now that we're speaking a little bit about what we see and how like every holiday like imposes something. But it's so true. Like when you're watching the Super Bowl, using that same example, anything you see, any commercial you're expecting to see that day, it's going to influence what you're going to do next.
Right.
Because with your friends, with your family, right? And then, again, a beer commercial pops up. And if there's beer in the setting, you'll be like, oh, that's funny. What a good commercial. Hey, pass me another beer. Or even if it's by eating, any sort of chips. I'm not trying to put out any brands out there. But if you're eating any sort of chips and you see a chip commercial, whatever, and it's going to influence the way you act. And to think that what we see, social media, right, and anything on TV or billboards, as we were talking earlier, that's why I think it's pretty cool that I also get to have an opportunity in my position as a graphic designer as well, to just create content that can shift that,
right,
and shift that for the positive, because again, if we are very easy to buy something by what we see. How impactful as an organization for us to also put something out there, some cool, creative, catchy content that may bring that awareness to a teenager.
Right.
So I think that we are living in a privileged era, I would say, because of that power in social media and in visuals and graphics. But it is definitely being used also for the other aspect of, hey, just do this.
Right.
And stuff like that.
And so also when it comes to that, it's also important to know that people don't always just use for peer pressure. That's in the youth setting, that is a big one, but it's not the only reason. Right. You also have to think that a lot of people, when we talk to, not even just the youth, but when we even talk to adults, they say oftentimes the first reason why they start is because they're stressed. Yeah. They have anxiety, either boredom, curiosity. Is just any number of reasons, and that's resulted in them using for the first time. But just because they use that 1, 2, or 3 times doesn't mean they continue to use it, but some people do. And for me, I think the scariest thing about it is that you don't exactly know what you're putting in your body, and you don't know how it's going to affect you, because if you never used something before, you don't know the impact it's going to have on you.
That's
so like
true.
Even people who have a peanut allergy, some people don't know they have one until the first time they try peanut, and it's so you never know how something's going to affect you. And so
that's good. That's true.
And everybody is different. Everybody feels the effects different, and the symptoms, they differ based on what you were doing before, what you're doing after, how much you were using. So it's important to know that all those factors play a role. So I want to stop for a quick second, I want to do something a little different.
Let's go.
So Nida, they have a National Drug and Alcohol IQ Challenge on their website that's open.
We have legitimately, and believe us, we are with our hands in our hearts. We have not done these questions at all.
Right.
It's total surprise for both of us. So let's go.
And since they update it every year, it's like you can't say I saw it last year.
Okay.
There's only 11 questions on the challenge, and each question does touch a different topic and substance. So you want to go ahead and give it a try?
I'm down. Let's go.
All right. Let's see.
Just getting ready.
First question: bath salts or synthetic, I'm not going to say that word, are sometimes sold in small foil or plastic packages labeled as, let's see, bath salts. I want to say.
Okay, so let's. Oh, it has time, so we can even.
I'm gonna say glass cleaner. The options are plant food, research chemicals, glass cleaner, or all of the above. I said glass cleaner.
Glass cleaner.
What did you say?
I said plant food.
Okay, and the answer is
all of the above. Right? Because it seemed. I'm having a little issue here on my computer, but let's keep playing through yours. Is that cool? We'll both answer at the same time, I guess.
Yeah. Next question. You're going to ask it?
It says, which component of cannabis, marijuana plant, is psychotropic or produces a high by altering consciousness?
So the choices are?
Choices are CBD or THC.
And you're going to say?
THC.
And I'm going to say THC.
And with time to... Oh, come on. Oh, click. Well... We said THC.
Well, we got that right.
Cool. Alrighty, next question. Okay.
So, which are examples of prescription stimulants misuse? So, A, taking stimulant medication that was not prescribed to you. B, taking a med in a way other than prescribed. C, taking more than your prescribed dose. Or D, all of the above.
What are you going to say?
I'm going to say taking it other than prescribed.
Okay.
Oh, it's all of the above.
All of the above. Yeah, I was thinking all of the above. I just didn't want to give you that point because I want to win. These are quick. I think we could go through the all 11 maybe.
Let's see.
5. True or false? Vaping nicotine can be addictive just like smoking cigarettes. Yes. True, of course.
True.
Good question. Do vapes have nicotine?
Yes. All vape products, despite what the packaging says, has nicotine. Just in case you didn't know, even if they say 0%, all of them have nicotine. That's one component.
A lot of people, that's something that's being used so much now. And it's, hey, everybody could do what they feel free to do, but it's just...
knowing what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, knowing knowledge. Okay, Enchante.
What is a common reason people may use drugs, even if they know using drugs may be unhealthy for them? A, to cope with trauma. B, to enhance performance in sports or school. C, to feel pleasure, experience a high. Or D, all of these.
That may be a little obvious or not.
Yeah.
Which one?
All of these.
All of these, yep. And correct.
Yeah, nice. We're on a roll.
7. Let's go. Question number 7 says, these pathways in the brain are responsible for getting us to repeat pleasurable activities, also known as reinforcements. Options are dopamine, dope, hormone, steroid, and sensory. The pathways in the brain are responsible for getting us to repeat pleasurable.
Dopamine.
Yeah, right. Dopamine. I would say that for sure. And it is. Yeah. I did get a little help there. Good
All
stuff. Okay, next says...
Which of the following is true regarding opioids? A, they tell your brain to block pain and can also make you feel relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
B, they are used to treat severe pain.
Mm-hmm.
C, opioids can be dangerous if misused. Or D, all of the above.
I think you get the easy ones, Anshante. Come on.
all of the above.
Girl.
Has to be
That
anything
one
but
is-
that one.
Yep, of course.
All of the above.
All right, I think we're getting to my last question. True or false? Driving after using marijuana isn't dangerous like driving after drinking alcohol. False.
False.
Yeah, of course. Like just having any sort of toxic chemical in your body can
It's gonna have an
alter your.
effect.
The answer is
False.
Of course. The answer is false.
False.
Good stuff. Okay.
It may affect it in a different way, but it's still going to affect you.
Uh-huh.
All right, 2 more questions. For drugs to affect the brain, chemical messengers called neurotransmitters must bind to A, the prefrontal cortex, B, neurons, C, receptors, D, none of these.
That's a tricky one.
I think it's neurons. Pretty sure
Alright.
there's neurons.
Let's see what the answer says.
Receptors? It's receptors.
Receptors.
Oh, it makes sense. They receive it. The
Of
neurons are the
course.
little chemicals. Receptors. See? Yeah.
That was pretty fun. So you could actually go ahead and play that if you go to www.
Dot. Let's see. It's teens.drugabuse.gov
Right.
/Nida dash.
But you could find that on the Nida website,
Yeah,
right?
find it on the
Okay.
Nida website. We'll definitely link it below so that you guys can
for
play.
sure.
And last
This
question.
was pretty good. Oh, I got one more?
You have one more.
Okay, it says Mdma, aka Ecstasy or Molly, produces its effects by increasing the activity of which neurotransmitter is in the brain. A, serotonin. B, neuropinephrine. C, dopamine, or all of the above? I would say all of the above.
I really don't know because that's not a topic we
Well,
discuss about.
that is- I
and we
worked at
don't
a-
do much research
We
on
did
it.
not, but I worked at a pharmacy before. See, all of the above. A little context, I did work at a pharmacy before, and we would get actually questions somewhat similar to that. But hey, that was pretty fun. That was pretty fun. No pressure on the timing though. My goodness.
Yeah.
For those of you, obviously you can't see, but they had like the little 10-second,
Yeah,
50-second
like
countdown,
20-second countdown.
and you would waste all those seconds by reading the questions and the answers. Like what?
Yeah.
My goodness. So hey, did you know that 80% of speaking on that game and all, but 80% of reports of domestic violence are somehow related to drugs and alcohol. And thankfully, I never experienced that. But especially Molly, that last question. I don't know if you've seen videos, but Molly is a very, very heavy drug. I've obviously never done it. I don't do drugs, but I've seen videos, and Molly really just. Have you ever seen those like supposedly zombie videos out there and on YouTube of people? A lot of research says that started because some sort of mixed variant of Molly drug.
Wow.
So obviously, if you've seen those videos, I don't encourage you to go on YouTube and watch them. What are you gonna do right now? Obviously, you're gonna go and watch them. But it's like they're very just concerning. And obviously, imagine if you're taking that drug. This fact makes sense about 80% of reports of domestic violence are somehow related to drugs and alcohol because you have drugs that you didn't even know. Again, knowledge is power, and there are drugs out there that you're consuming or people are consuming and you don't even know what the outcome can be or will be. So that's pretty scary.
Yeah, and like we said before, everybody is affected differently depending on what they use, how much they use, how often they use, and so that is a scary fact.
That is something else. Actually, let me share there's some very interesting ones here while we catch back our ideas back, but also this is a tough one. Over 50% of all suicides and over 50% of all violent crimes are influenced by alcohol and or drugs.
Wow.
And that's a whole other topic that at some point we could talk on another podcast. But it's just crazy to think that anything you consume is gonna trigger, your neurons and just from your brain to your body, like from your inside to your outside performance. And it's just very important to have weeks like these like Nida and just worldwide known to bring that awareness and bring that knowledge to people. It's free. It's out there. Please go read and inform yourself. Whether you're a teenager, whether you're a parent, it's very important to not ignore this behavior, right?
And, you just touched on an important point, JP. So finding healthy ways to cope with stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, all these emotions that may lead to substance use. And so finding a healthy and positive outlet, whether it be writing, drawing, sports, dance, something that stimulates the mind and body, but also brings you joy and helps you address the feelings that you feel. So, for example, for me, when I'm not feeling my best, I like to draw. I like to, whatever I'm feeling at that moment, I like to put it on paper because it just helps me figure my way through it. And
do you like sketch, or is it more like shade it out?
I like to sketch.
Color. Okay.
I don't like adding color. I always feel like if I put color, it's gonna mess it up, and that's just gonna make me feel even worse. So it's just
that's awesome.
Pencil to paper, and I'll even put on music, whether it's just like instrumentals or just like the nature noise. Is just something to help me write out my feelings, draw out my feelings until I'm ready to address them. And I can always have that. For me, is like a way to go back to when I was feeling that and think, how did I get that through that the first time?
So out of personal experience, there's another story I also wanted to share, but out of personal experience, would you say that most of the times one of the reasons why people would go to drugs is due to an emotional mix-up or an emotional just like moment?
Yeah.
And what do you this is pretty interesting too, like if it's due to an emotional moment you're having, does that mean even if you're happy, do you go to drugs? Or even if you're sad, do you go to drugs?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
So that is a thing. So even think about parties. A lot of times when you're at a parties, you're already feeling good. And true. Sometimes
especially if you're the hype man like JP.
Yeah.
Come on here.
And so you can be at a party and it's like, yeah, I'm feeling good. Let me take a shot or something. So it's not always a sad emotion. It can be a happy emotion. But then you still have to think, when you come down from your high or whatever it is, how are you going to feel afterwards? And a lot of times you got to think you may not feel the same way when you first started, or if you drink a lot, you may wake up hungover or so.
Like the movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that movie, Hangover, and as funny as it can be if you've seen it or not, I think it's pretty funny. There's some good actors there. But it's so true. Although the approach to the movie is, they're not really talking about not to drink or whatever, but the message is there. The message is implied. Like they did not remember a thing of what they did and how one of them got their face painted like I think Mike Tyson and stuff, different things like that, and it's just crazy to see how this can knock you out of like your reason. So, talking about recurring or going to like habits and things to do when you were feeling some sort of emotion. You sketch, and that's awesome. Something I do or I've done for years now, it's music. I love to write music. I love to sing, play my guitar. I'm very, very active in that world. And it started because it started for me. It wasn't necessarily, I want to do this because I see people on TV doing it and it's cool. No, it started because there were moments where I did not know how to process my thoughts, my emotions, heartbreak. I was like 13, 14, like the age as we read before that a lot of these experiences start. And I was at that age, 13, 14, where I was just going through so much. My first heartbreak for sure. And I was like, no. And at that time period, and people were already going, my friends to parties at that age and getting drunk and all that stuff. And I remember that I could have easily chosen that route as well. And don't get me wrong, I'm not like the holiest person in this room or anything. Like I've gone through parties and done different things, but thankfully because of music, I was able to find a way of coping through any of that. And then later on in my life, another activity that I found helpful to vent any sort of extra need or any sort of extra curiosity has been working out. I really enjoy going to the gym or try different sort of exercises, CrossFit or high intensity training or running. I ran not marathons, but I ran like 5Ks and 10Ks when I was like in between 18 to 21. I ran a few of those in like 2 years, and it was awesome because the moment you put your body through an activity like that, sketching, exercise, music, cooking for some people, meditating, whatever, the moment you put your body into that habit, you realize that why else would you perhaps go to a drug that could be more harmful when you could find a much more like real and honest peace with yourself by doing something else. So I just think that's pretty interesting.
And I like that you brought up, the age when you said it, because drawing for me started when I was actually in elementary school.
Oh, wow. You were super young.
So, yeah, I was young. I was a very emotional child. I was not the best at dealing with my emotion.
Oh, wow.
I was one of those, the second I got angry, you're going to know about it. And so my dad actually sent me to therapy. And that lady, I felt bad for her because, like, the first 3 sessions, we just sat and we stared. And she would talk to me, and it's like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not saying anything to you. And so out of random, she just came one day and she bought Play-Doh. And she was like, just sit and just, show me what you think of yourself. And I sat there and I played with the Play-Doh. And so next time she brought a puzzle, and then she bought crayons. And that's how me drawing, that's how that started, was from therapy. And it's like, once I started drawing, then I felt okay talking to her because she will say something about my drawing. And then that's what started conversation. So for me, it was going to therapy made me find my love for drawing, and that's something I was able to keep up over the years, and that's why I'm so good with dealing my emotions that way now.
That is awesome. And I think what we're trying to also say here, and we're trying to normalize that there are many different ways to cope with your anxieties, your emotions, your life struggles. Again, like we've experienced, and there's this story I want to read to you guys. It's a story called The Story of Beth, right? And it says, Beth was only 9 when it started. The drugs came from her mother. Beth really was not sure what they were supposed to do, but knew that she needed to take them. At first, her mom had to make her take the pills. Soon, Beth learned to take them on her own. It was not long before Beth started taking them herself. It was not long after that when she could not bring herself to stop taking them. She was hooked. She was not sure whether her mother did not notice or did not even care. It did not matter to her, though. As long as she could keep getting what she wanted, she did not care.
Wow.
So just as a parenthesis, we're already seeing this story like that. There wasn't an outlet for Beth, like we're expressing now, but it was the drug directly. By the age of 12, a friend had introduced her to alcohol. By 15, she was going to parties with college students. Just imagine that difference, 5-6 years older than her, and smoking marijuana. She still was not sure whether no one noticed, that's tough, or just did not care until she was in college herself. She never considered herself to be addicted. It all seemed so normal to her. Then, being away from home, everything fell apart. Her world fell to shambles when her father died in a car accident. He had been driving drunk when he hit a 16-wheeler. He died on impact. The tragedy caused her to rely even more on the drugs and alcohol for an escape, which ultimately caused her to spiral out of control. One night, she got wasted at a party. Then the next thing she knew, she was facing multiple charges in court, from public intoxication to domestic violence. So the moral of the story is, do not let what happened to Beth happen to you or someone you love. If you or someone you care about is struggling alcohol or drug abuse, do something about it. And from this story, what I take is, there are so many Beths out there. If obviously you want to hear a male name for some reason, there are many Jacks or Jonathans out there who are truly struggling with how to face this. And I think something we would love to leave you with something, if so, is, hey, just talk it out with somebody. Just get it out there, verbalize it, because sometimes we could justify what we're doing because it's all inside of us, and we think we are the owners of everything we're doing or thinking or saying. The moment we verbalize a behavior like this, it brings into perspective, like, wow, this really is something that I need to deal with and better myself with. Based on the story, there's another fact that says over 50% of traffic accidents involve alcohol or drugs. Yeah. So as you can see that, and I don't know if you have any personal stories of something like that happening, but it's crazy.
I mean, the first time I really felt an impact when it came to that is I went to school with this girl, and she was such an amazing person. This is the first time I ever heard about MAD and all these other organizations. And she was with her sister and either her mom or her dad, and they were driving her to school, and there was this guy who was drunk driving on the busway, accidentally hit their car, and she ended up dying. And I was young. What was that? Elementary school. I hadn't even reached middle school yet, and so it was like that was my first time really hearing about substances and a death from it, and the impact that our community was like. It was shattered. She ended up the street where we went to school on. They named it after her and everything, and we heard about. Everybody was in court for that. It was a really big thing because our community was just like, we've never felt that before, and we're elementary students, and so it's just it's really difficult thing to deal with, thing to process, and so. Of course, if you need help, definitely go and get help. Like the Nida website, they have so many resources. Even on, for this week, they even talk about that, talking about ways to cope. If you have, if you're dealing with substances, the number you can reach out to, different resources you can go to. So, of course, we're going to have all this linked in the description so that you can access it. We're going to put it on the screen so you can see. But, it's important,
Are there videos, informational videos?
Yeah, they have informational videos on it as too, and even like they have a Kahoot game. So the IQ challenge that we played was on Kahoot, and actually they have a video for each question you can look at. It's about 30 seconds, and they have another Kahoot about coping with stress. But even outside of that, they have regular videos you can look at that talk on different topics. It talks about mental health, of course, the substance use. So and then also alternatives that you can do, and turn to as a way to better yourself.
Awesome. Let me just share this last fact with you guys, and we'll close up for sure. And before we do, it's been awesome. It's been awesome to talk with you guys, and just we hope to have an opportunity to continue to do these. But check this out: the most commonly abused prescription drug. Because we talk about alcohol, we talk about Molly, we talk about any of these common or street drugs,
right?
But then there's drugs behind counters that a lot of people nowadays are abusing of as well. Painkillers, tranquilizers, stimulants.
Yeah.
That's something also to be aware of, and just because it's not off the street doesn't mean it's not a drug. Right. So I think that's a pretty interesting fact there, that painkillers, tranquilizers, or stimulants are in abuse, of course, are also a very harmful way to treat yourself.
Yeah, and the thing, especially when it comes to that, our youth between the ages of 12 to 17, they abuse prescription medication the most because, like you said, because it's not off the streets, they think it's okay. And if you read the labels, it tells you to use as directed, because if you don't, or if you mix it with something else, you are abusing it. You can cause, damage to yourself or to others. Sharing prescription medication is a big no-no.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is prescribed to you for a different reason. Your age, your weight, your history, your person, your ethnic background. There's different things that play into that. So when you're giving it to somebody else, no matter how goodwill you're trying to be, you can really end up damaging more than helping them out.
Wow. Ashante, thank you so much. So is there anything on the people listening to us should be aware on our social media, what's happening, and how to connect with us?
So like we said, this Nida is it's a week long. It's from the 21st to the 27th. And so you'll be able to learn even more facts throughout this week via our social media accounts. So starting tomorrow until Sunday, we will share a fact a day on a different substance that's directly related to our community. So be sure to follow us on Facebook at South Dade One Voice Community Coalition, Twitter at SDOVCC, and Instagram at SD_One Voice.
Yeah. And
I'll be sure to put our social media on the screen and also down below. Or you can always visit our website at www.ovccsd.org, where you can find all our social media on the homepage.
That's awesome. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your day to listen in. We really hope this was both educational and entertaining in a sense, and that you will keep up with us in the future. And Shantae, thank you so much, and until next time.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao.